The Essential Education projector range from Hitachi sponsors ICT programs.
Overlooking the Tamar estuary is Saltash School in Cornwall. The D&T department has been hosting eScape, a trial of handheld digital devices called PDAs, led by Richard Kimball and Tony Wheeler of Goldsmiths College.
Tick boxes and then press OK.
The devices contain customised software that pupils can use to develop and record their ideas, which are then beamed up to a web space on the teacher's computer. The two-day trial tested the effectiveness of the PDA as a tool to enhance pupil learning and for assessment. But before letting the pupils go, they're asked for their reactions.
Tell me what you think about, in general terms, about the PDA.
I think it's good the way that all the work that you've done is together all in sort of one portfolio, because I usually have a problem with keeping things together. I lose things quite often, and I think it's good, yeah, the way that things are kept together.
I find it also a lot quicker, because it's taken us 2 days and we've come up with like some really good ideas and we've got like loads of information down.
It's just really good because you got everything in one and you don't have to, you've got one each, so you don't have to share.
Okay, we really want you to tell us if you think there are things that we might change, either about the activity or about using the technology, or was it all just perfect?
It was all right, but it was harder. I'd prefer to sketch things down on paper rather than on there because I found it harder to sketch on there.
Now, tell me why. What was it? Was it because it was small that it was hard?
Yeah, because there was less space and it was a lot harder to write things down next to it.
What about the sounds?
Yeah, sounds.
How did you feel about the sounds?
You like the sounds?
Yeah, but it was also like crackly. Like when you're
crackly.
playing it back to yourself, it was like.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was awful because like you couldn't understand what you were saying as well. When you played it back, it was too crackly.
Truth is, when you play it back on the computer, it's very clear. The problem is the quality of the speaker in the PDA.
Yeah.
If you could hear it good quality, was that a good idea?
Yeah, it would have been.
The developers suggested that we give you little Bluetooth headsets. Might that make you feel a bit more comfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you feel that the photographs that you were able to take with the device once you got used to it gave a good representation of the model as it was emerging?
I felt I really could have done with a video tool so I could show how my product was working.
How long would the video clip need to be? And remember, the shorter the better.
So like 10 to 15 seconds?
It's 15. We've got people talking here about 10 seconds. Do you thinking, you're shaking your head here?
No, about maximum of a minute.
Minute?
Yeah.
Is that such a long time?
Is there a technical problem with moving video around?
Well, it's just that video files are quite big.
There's so much of this small-scale mobile technology is happening more and more and more, and it's happening faster and faster. So we've done our best with this prototype system that we've put together with digital sellotape and string, if you like, to try and make a system that kind of almost works. And we've now got lots more suggestions about how to make it better.
The trial's been a two-day marathon. Before taking the train home, Richard and Tony discussed lessons learned with Dave Hales, the class teacher, and languages specialist Emma Johnson, who's keen to see whether the PDAs could be used across the curriculum.
I think it was pretty largely successful. We seemed to keep the interest of the youngsters throughout, but there were some lumpy bits in it that we need to refine.
I was coming from the design and the learning side of things, and there was a point at the beginning where it was focused on the PDA, and I was concerned that they might not want to transfer from that to the modelling and the paper, and I was impressed there how they did use the information on the PDA and really got into the modelling.
My excitement is the fact that we go away with a web space for each of those children which has data which we're hoping will represent the whole of the activity over the 2 mornings.
That's a very fine line, look.
That's lovely, and completely legible.
Completely legible.
And I'm intrigued that the different styles of their drawing have come through on the electronic device.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated by the glitches that exist because we've been forced to sellotape stuff together, and I'm delighted by the comments that individual children make about it didn't quite work the way we wanted it to. You know, it's a bit like the Graham Bell experience of you know, feeding that information through the telephone cable for the first time. What did you think, Emma? You came in and looked and...
Yeah, as an observer, it looked very impressive, and having spoken to the children, it was interesting to see what they thought were the main advantages of it. And I think they achieved more than they thought they could achieve.
Yeah.
And I think another element that they particularly enjoyed was the peer assessment element of it.
Yes.
And I think on paper, they tend to look at a piece of work and say, oh yeah, it's good, and hand it back without any real evaluation of it. And I think because they were actually sending the information to their partner, they felt more obliged to make more critical comments of it, and I think they'd find that particularly useful.
The PDAs are set up so the pupils can dip into and comment on each other's work.
Just put a zip compartment for pills.
This is a prototype that we've banged together from existing technologies that sit out there. There's this paint package from here, there's an audio package from there, there's a photograph package from here. It's all cleverly linked together within the system, but it only just about hangs together.
And the reason for that, just to clarify, is that those bits are easy. I mean, it's easy to make a sound package or a drawing package. It's expensive in coding, but it's relatively easy to do. The difficult bit is to get the PDA to speak to a web space and the web space to speak to the PDA, and for the clever bit about the system is the way in which those two technologies have been made to talk together.
Technology goes wrong when it's used as a separate entity instead of being integral to the lessons. So, for example, say a couple of years ago, interactive whiteboards were a novelty, and nowadays they're quite integral to most classrooms, and it's now used, as it should be, as a learning tool and a teaching tool.
I'm probably thinking mostly now about CAD/CAM. You can see these products that are really beautifully made because they're made on the machine. But I just feel that in a lot of instances, perhaps the pupils not really had control of that ownership of it. It just arrives, and it's perhaps put together by a technician, and there it is, a beautiful product, but I think it's the wrong way to go.
One of the things about the new technology is that they often weren't designed for schools. They were designed for some other marketplace. So we acquire CAD that was developed for professional engineers. Similarly, even our PDA, you know, we're having to deal with software on the PDA that was designed for business people. So we've had to turn backwards somersaults to try and make this thing amenable, accessible, useful in a schooling environment. And often that doesn't happen. It needs a good deal of thought to make that technology valuable as a learning vehicle. And that's one of the things we've struggled with the PDA, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's very true. If the teachers and the pupils in the classroom do not feel that they own that technology, whatever it is, then it becomes something that's separate. Then the technology is leading, then you're doing stuff that the technology tells you to, rather than you being in control of it.
I like the camera. I think it's good that you can take pictures of your work going through the stages.
What mechanism needs further development?
It was about ideas, design ideas, innovation, creativity, getting students involved at that level. So we wanted small stuff that would bring tools to the aid of the design studio without dominating the design studio.
It worried me to start with whether it was going to become all done the PDA, but it wasn't. It became it enhanced the thing rather than taking over.
I think as an observer, the classroom still looked like a traditional classroom and the computers were not intrusive at all. But then when the time came to use them, they were at hand, they were there, and the children were able to access them really easily.
These little handy-heldy things move a stage further. It's with the desktop computing, you're tied to the desk, and if you're at the back of a workshop somewhere and you are struck by inspiration, you can't get it in or do anything in the way of manipulating it digitally until you get back to that desktop computer.
So it's not like the teacher standing here in control of all these big boxes. It's like we've all got our computer in our pockets, and it's in a way it's more kind of, well, it's not just distributed digital, it's kind of more democratic digital. We've all got something and we can all share it, and we can all learn from each other about this tool, and it changes the nature of it, changes some of the power dynamics in the classroom. Using the PDA, fire it up, go to the photograph option.
It was interesting to see how technology could be integrated into the classroom, and I think as technology is moving forward all the time, we have to expect that the traditional classroom is going to change. And from that respect, I would say, yeah, you probably were looking at the classroom of the future.
In a way, I'm pleased by what you say, but for the odd reason. If you think that's the classroom of the future, that's fine. Not because of the extent to which it's changed, but because of the extent to which it's the same. I don't want a design and technology workshop without materials.
No, it should never be that way.
I don't want a design and technology studio without tools and kids struggling to get to grips with the reality, the hard reality of making materials do what you want them to do. And if we get to the point where everything becomes digital and virtual, that's not design and technology.
Similarly, you don't want a language classroom without a dictionary. You don't want a science lab without a test tube. Technology is going to have its place, and it's always going to be there in the classroom, but I don't think it'll ever take away from what's always been there. It'll just enhance it.
If we can help pupils generate ideas, exchange information about, and exchange ideas, then that's got to be good. And some of them might still choose to do it through paper, and I'm quite happy with that.
I don't think the future is necessarily PDAs. They're the tool that we have at the moment, just because that's what we have at the moment. I mean, in the future, it might be your glasses, and you can talk to your glasses and look through your glasses, and what I'm looking through is what I see on my screen. I don't know. I have no idea what the technology will look like in 10 years' time, but almost certainly it will be personalised. It'll be something that goes around with me. It's not something I have to go to the next room to use.
The world of technology moves at such a frenetic pace. I mean, we know with this project, the devices that we chose 6 months ago
no longer available.
No longer available.
Yeah.
The devices that we were using today have gone end of line during the course of the early development part of this project. The device that you choose that comes out next month will last 6 months if you're lucky. So I think there's a real challenge for education to embrace change.
I guess the other problem already I'm feeling is the actual cost involved and whether education will fund it. I mean, the pupils already said, when are we going to get these PDAs? And
do the sums on how much your school spends on all those big networks of computers that go redundant in 2 years' time. I
think you have to think about this technology a bit like we used to think about calculators. It was, gosh, what are we going to do with calculators? They're so expensive, and now they give them away in cornflakes. It'll be like that. The technology will get cheaper, it'll get easier to carry around. We just have to find good ways, supportive ways of embedding it into our pedagogy, rather than trying to twist our pedagogy to cope with it. That's the challenge.
Essential education projectors from Hitachi sponsor ICT programs.